Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Sorry about that. I was not ready. I was not prepared. I was reading something to try to get caught up with this case. So sorry about that. But welcome in, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live. Welcome in. Hopefully you guys are having a great start to your week. It is Monday, the 24th of February. We're almost done with this month. Can you believe that? We're already like into the third month of this year already. Like I mean, this year is going fast for me. I don't know if it's going fast for y'all, but it's going fast for me. I'm just adjusting my watch really quick if you guys are wondering what I'm doing. But welcome in, everybody. We are going to be talking about Idaho 4 tonight. We're going to be reading the last part of the transcripts, part 3, and the last haul of those transcripts, all 175 pages of them. And welcome in again. Sorry I was a little bit late. I had to run to the other side of the house and do all the mostest. So, of course, right before the live. But welcome in. It's good to see everybody. Like I said, if you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. And we'll get started here just momentarily. So, hey, Ladybug, how you doing? Hey, Cyber Warrior. Hey, Dawn. Good to see you guys. Hey, Princess. Just Breathes in here. I like that name. Well, welcome in. Hey, Mary Beth. It's good to see ya. Hopefully I don't... There's Catherine. Hey, Catherine. How you doing? Hey, Willow's Trials and True Crime Discussions. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, KJ. I can hear one of the dogs out there. It's Araya. Hey, Faith. Vincent was awake. I don't know why she's not over there with him. She just likes to be around me. So, hey, Lisa. Oh, have a good workout. I feel you there. I do my workouts all over the place. So I'll do 20 minutes of with weights and stretching and weights and stuff like that. And then I do it just depends how far I walk, how much I walk, but I'll usually walk 40 minutes during the day. And then I'll go do run errands, and then I'll come back and I'll walk again. And it's I'm still not even getting all my steps in. It's how is that even possible? But Beaver, I don't know why this shit never starts on time. Have you ever been to a channel where it started on time? And let me know if you have. Let me know if you have. Mhm. Hey, Mr. Rosebud. Hey, Ember. I think I'm getting down to the bottom. Hey, Mandy. Hey, Jenny. Hey, DM. It's good to see ya. Hey, KCG. I could hear her little paws out there. It makes me feel bad. Yeah. Email me. I can try to help you out. Yeah. I go through StreamYard. If you're going through YouTube, I might not be able to help you out too much on, unless I think I could do it from the phone. Because I used to be able to do lives. I did lives before I had StreamYard. So yeah, I think I could be able to figure it out. Yeah, just email me, titaniumbuiltboo@gmail.com, and I'll help you. Yeah, no problem. So before I was on the screen, I had the document on the screen, but we will be going over, like I said, the rest of the documents. So on Saturday night, we went through pages 1 through 37. Last night, we went through pages 37 through 113. And then tonight, we're going to go through pages 113 of 175, but I don't think it's actually the full 175. I think a few of the pages at the end are maybe blank, or they're just signature pages. So I don't think it's the full 175. Let me pull this up though. And I do actually have the right document, my actual document up tonight, instead of the other one that I had up last night, because this one's actually color coordinated for you guys. So let me put the banner up. That way it's a little easier. But before we do that, let me put this in the chat. Okay. If you would like to become a channel member, we'd love to have you. And if you decide throughout the live you'd like to become a channel member, I'll put the link out in the chat throughout the live tonight. If you are on a cell phone, I know you have to go through Safari, then go through YouTube that way to join. They need to get on it. They need to fix that. So I will be wearing my glasses on. I'll be taking them on and off. I have a little bit of a headache, and I don't know if it's because I wasn't wearing my glasses when I first started reading this, or if it's because I had my glasses on. So we're going to find out together. So last night we stopped with the last witness, and they're calling their next witness up. We've been doing it kind of by, each witness that they've been calling. It just makes it a little easier that way. But tonight we're going to have two, maybe three. I think it's just two though. Two witnesses that we'll go through. So they are swearing in the next witness, which is Daniel Hellwig. And he does swear to tell the truth. So this is going to be by Miss Taylor. And anything in blue is going to be for the defense. Anything that is in yellow is going to come from the courts or the clerk. Anything in pink will be prosecution. And witnesses will be in purple. And it is right below me on the banner. I have a banner going, so hopefully that will help if you don't know which side is talking. It does say their names, but I have it highlighted for you. All documents that we do will be like that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and start it. Good morning. Will you please state your full name? My name is Daniel Hellwig, and then it spells it. What do you do for a living? I'm currently the forensic director at Intermountain Forensics. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our main mission is pushing forward new and cutting-edge DNA technologies, assisting different agencies, law enforcement and otherwise, with education, training, and consultation on those. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to pull you guys up so I can see you guys, like the live chat. That might help. And it should be on all chat. Hey, Zaza. Hey, Donald. See, now I can see. If people come in, I'll be able to see you better. Okay. Our main focus right now is to help fund these cases specifically, and most of our mission is resolved around forensic investigative genetic genealogy, or FIG. When you say fund these cases as a nonprofit, who do you mean? A variety of different. We actually allow people to submit cases that they may be having problems getting the revenue and resources to move it forward. And when we evaluate it, and then we evaluate it. So this could be, we've worked and tried to assist in, mainly, I think most of our work is in smaller agencies that don't have nearly as much resources to further their case work with this technology. But we've done work with law enforcement, medical examiners' offices, and defenses, especially the Innocence Project. What did you do before you worked this nonprofit? I've been in forensic DNA for 20 plus years. I have a bachelor's in biology and chemistry from Viterbo, I never heard of that, university, and a master's in forensic science from Marshall University. I started my career at the Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory as an intern there and moved on to various public laboratories. I worked in forensic DNA at New Mexico Department of Public Safety and in Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And let me do one more thing. So he has the credentials. I'm gonna I forgot to put the live chat on, and then I just always customize the chat. That way it helps the mods a little bit more. I then started at the private sector. I worked for Sorensen Forensics in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a variety of different jobs there. Initially, I was the DNA technical leader, essentially the quality manager of the DNA section, but moved into executive management as the laboratory director. In 2019, I began the Intermountain Forensics as a founder. I'll refer to that sometimes as IMF. We were, up until July of last year, our mission was not only funding cases, education outreach, but also we established and operated a fully functioning forensic DNA lab. Our mission in that realm was to, again, continue with cutting-edge DNA technology, and specifically, we sought out to operate and utilize a forensic investigative genetic genealogy support laboratory. What does that mean? So our goal in this, we had a fully functioning laboratory in that we did what I'll call traditional forensics, STRs, as mentioned previously, but we also wanted to implement this new technology, forensic investigative genetic genealogy, and laboratory processes behind it. Specifically, in this case, you're talking about forensic SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. The court reporter says, I'm sorry. The witness says single nucleotide polymorphisms. And then Judge Hippler, so you need to slow down a little bit. You don't enunciate particularly well, and so you need to go slower. Like, man, he's a no-nonsense kind of judge. I like him. The witness says, I promise. Miss Taylor goes back to her questioning. Let me see if I understand your work right before the 501c3, getting into the forensic investigative genetic genealogy world. Do I understand that your work was to do the part, all the long steps until you get to the SNP? And then it would be handed off for a genealogist to do the other part of the work. Beyond just identifying SNPs, it is to generate and upload file, an end product that would be handed off to an investigative genetic genealogist to continue that research. So essentially, our laboratory had the ability to start from sample from evidentiary item, do DNA extraction, which is essentially popping cells open, pulling DNA out, and washing all the residue material away. And then traditional forensics, where you're doing short tandem repeats, repetitive DNA that repeats over and over, and you simply count them. To our specific targets, which is SNPs, where we did DNA sequencing, looking at all the different letters within that genome and pulling out the relevant single nucleotide polymorphisms that were specifically associated through genealogy, generating through a pretty extensive process, what I'll call an upload file. These are files that contain all of the SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms that contain the information that is needed for upload into these databases. So the next question was, okay, I'm going to go back a little bit with you. So in the traditional STR, we've heard some about that today. You said splitting the DNA open and washing it. That was a question mark. Or that was a question, I guess. And they said, yes, that's essentially the very simplified version of DNA extraction. You can think of this biological material, these cells, as little tiny water-filled balloons with nuclear material with DNA inside of it. DNA extraction, similar to previous testimony, is just popping those cells open, pulling the DNA out, and washing all the cellular garbage, if you will, out to generate an extract. It can then go down several different pathways, depending on what you need. Traditional forensic testing, STRs, short tandem repeats, is taking that DNA and looking at repetitive sequences and counting how many repeats there are. The best way I can explain this is if you had the word cat, and that was the specific DNA letters that you were looking at. You could repeat the word cat 8 times. That would be a short tandem repeat. Cat repeated 8 times. I would call that an 8. You have DNA from mom and dad, so you have 2 copies of this. So you have an 8 and maybe another 8 from mom and dad. The problem there is that you're not actually looking at specific letters. So a 3-letter word like dog would be completely different. We've got an 8 repeat STR and an 8 repeat STR that have different sequences, but still have the same short tandem repeat number. SNP's single nucleotide polymorphisms is actually looking at the DNA sequence. So if we were to look at the SNP, let's say we were particularly interested in the A in the cat, we would sequence that DNA and then go into that sequence and say at this location, we have an A. And we have an A from mom and maybe an A from dad. That is the generation of an SNP profile. Same concept, but we're dialing down to the specific letter in question. And then Anne asked, have you done both kinds of work? Yes. In my before IMF, I worked at several different laboratories, all using traditional forensics, STRs, and YSTRs. In my work at Intermountain Forensics, we did that, but we also focused on forensic SNP testing. Oh, I'm not even down there. Are we having a lot of ads? Are you guys getting a lot of ads? Let me know, because Vincent said I was. No? Okay. Okay, good. Because I don't ever put it on like heavy or anything. I just put it on whatever YouTube puts it on. So I just wanted to make sure because he said he was getting ads. How does he not have premium? Man, that man. I'm gonna start calling him cheap. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. He doesn't care. He'll flip through the ad. I shouldn't have answered him. Well, hopefully. Yeah, he says your ads are going off. I don't know. Okay. So in my work at Intermountain Forensics, we did that, but we also focused on forensic S&P testing. Question. If I understood the part about the water balloon right, it's one water balloon, same process of popping it open, stripping out the stuff you don't need, and then it's where you go from there that makes the difference between an STR and S&P ultimately. Correct. It's all about associating to the same DNA extract, and that's similar to what the Idaho State Police Lab does as well. Sorry, my mouth is, or my throat is still dry. So the process of getting that DNA water balloon open so that you can strip things off doesn't matter how you do that. Well, there's a variety of different ways to do that, but in forensics, there's some specific and kind of common tools that we use that the process to get there can vary somewhat. However, it's fairly standard practice to use some of the same tools within the forensic DNA community. I think I understood the repeats as looking for patterns, but the S&P is looking at the individual characteristic. And then the answer to that was individual letter, nucleotide. So if DNA is made up of billions and billions of letters, STR is looking at repetitive sequences and counting the repeats, and SNPs is looking at specific letters, specific nucleotides on that genome. All right, I want to talk about that whole process, how you get from SNP to splitting the water balloon open. I'm with you there. So what do you do after we get that stripped off? If we're going down the path of forensic SNP, there's a few different ways you can do that. There's one way that is essentially a targeted practice. We're looking at SNPs in question, and we're going to focus on those SNPs and do what is called an amplification PCR, basically a DNA photocopier of that sequence, that specific letter and a little bit around it, to specifically target an SNP in question. Hey, Tempest. Hey, True Crime Lullabies. See, that's why I don't ever take my eyes off the screen when I'm reading. Where are we at? Okay. Basically a DNA photocopier. Okay, we read that. So that specific letter and a little bit around it to specifically target an SNP in question. The other technique is something more attuned to whole genome sequencing. Again, there's a variety of different ways you can do this, but the idea here is we're going to sequence the entire genome, the entire length of DNA on this particular extract. And then we're going to pull out the SNPs that we need, the relevant ones that we're looking for. This can be done, I will refer to that as whole genome sequencing, acknowledging the fact that there's a variety of different ways you can accomplish that. Once you sequence the DNA, it comes out off of the instrument in question. And there's several different instruments you can use, but for the most part, it turns into raw data. And that raw data is typically found in a file called an FASTQ file. Well, they make these a little bit easier, you know. The raw data is massive. It has an insane amount of information, and it's not refined in a way that we can actually utilize it. So the steps from taking that raw data to actually getting that upload file, that end product for upload into these databases, is bioinformatics. essentially a software that goes into this massive amounts of data and pulls out the things that we're looking for. Question, is all software the same or all bioinformatics programs? Is that all the same? No. Each, as far as I can tell, each laboratory has their own version of bioinformatics that they use to get from sequence data into usable results. If I understand where we are, we popped open the balloon, we put the DNA in a sequencer, created a raw data file called a FASTQ file, and now we need to do bioinformatics to get a SNP. Right. See, Aunt Taylor, she's no dummy. She's following along. Okay, what happens from there? So in the bioinformatic pathway, you're doing multiple things. Again, you can think of this as a DNA sequence that the sequencer has given you a truckload of information. They're essentially puzzle pieces. The first thing we're going to do is reemerging. So we are going to take all the puzzle pieces that are the same and we're going to use them to paint the best picture of that information. You can think of this as we're sequencing this DNA, this human genome, multiple times, hopefully 10, 15, 30 times. Our samples in forensics are typically difficult, so we don't tend to get that level of essentially, we are trying to sequence this entire genome multiple times to add more context in what we're getting. In merging, we're taking the DNA sequence that we have multiple copies of, and we're combining them into one that best fit for that particular fragment of DNA. Well, we still have puzzle pieces to put together. The next thing is mapping. The bioinformatic pathway will map all of these puzzle pieces and put them into the human genome in a way that they're supposed to be. That takes multiple fragments and lines them up in the right manner. Once it's mapped, we are going to start to be able to find the particular SNPs that we're looking for. We have a human genome with a whole bunch of different letters in different positions. We can say, all right, these are the relevant SNPs that we're looking for, genealogy-based informative markers. We want to pull these SNPs out, see what the call is there, and send that up to an upload file. Okay. I'm going to put myself like up here a little bit more, but thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. If you guys don't mind, just hit the like button. If you don't mind, we need to get this out into the algorithm as much as we can, because, you know, reading isn't that much fun. And welcome in, Ava. My best friend's daughter's name's Ava. Hey, Frenchie. Hey, Therese. Welcome in, everybody. Hey, Lenore. I don't know if I said hi to you. I think I did. Welcome all in. Okay. In True Crime Lullabies, did you send me a book? It had to have been you. I'm going to start reading it tomorrow. I'm excited about it. If it was you. If it wasn't you, who was it? Who sent me a book? I took a picture of it and I was going to put it on the community page, and I forgot, and I'm still going to do it because I took a cute little picture of it. I'm excited to read my little reading nook. I haven't had like a book to read in my reading nook other than I read that one to y'all, and I haven't bought another book. So you did. I figured you did. Because don't you have the book club? I thought you had a book club. And I was like telling Vince, I was like, look at this. Look at this. I was excited. I think that he's kind of sad he doesn't, get cool stuff at his work. Eating a late dinner. I hear you, Lenore. I've done that, huh? I'm like, I'll be on late. So it says here, in some cases, and one more thing before I forget. I have a really, really, really good Idaho 4 live planned for you guys. We'll probably do it tomorrow or the next night. I was thinking about some stuff, and I don't know. I think I might have thought of something really good. If not, it'll be a really good conversation to have. So it says, in some cases, we don't have all of the information. We're missing some sequence data. We've maybe gotten 80% of the genome, and some of the SNPs are missing. There's a process to fill in those gaps called imputation. Imputation is in most bioinformatic packages. Essentially, we know what the letters are in front of this particular spot we're missing, and we know what letters are behind what this particular spot that is missing. So we can look at all the human genomes and estimate the most likely letter in the position that we're looking for. Once we're through imputation and AliCalls, we're going to use this bioinformatic package to pull out SNPs that we're looking for and put them into a format that will be usable for upload into these databases. At IMF, we actually generate 2 files, one specifically to the GEDmatch Pro database and one specifically to the family tree FTDNA database. In these cases, GEDmatch Pro, we typically got around 55, well, how much? What? 5,550 or 550,000 plus SNPs. Could not read that number, could I? SNPs that we were looking for in the family tree DNA databases, upwards of 600 to 650,000 SNPs. The end product there, though, is a text file or some sort of upload file, which could be in text format or Excel format. But essentially, what it is a file with all of these SNPs, the calls at the SNP locations in a format that allows them to be uploaded into the database. At this point, we hand it off to the investigative genetic genealogist to do the research. The upload databases you mentioned to GEDmatch Pro and Family Tree DNA. And that was the question. That's correct. Why did you mention those? Those are the 2 databases that allow law enforcement searches. They have specific terms of service that give a portion of that database, those that have consented to do so, to law enforcement to search in for human remains in some cases and in criminal cases. So in this lab process, to get to the SNP, to get to the upload file, it sounds like there's a lot of steps along the way. It's a pretty complicated process, yes. Is it important to keep lab notes or bench notes or have procedures or protocols? Yes, and I think that is pretty standard practice amongst forensic DNA testing laboratories in general. You're going to adhere to a quality management system. You're going to have procedures, protocols, and policies that tell you what to do, tell you how to do it, tell you what samples to use, what personnel can do the analysis and technical review, and so on and forth. It's a whole quality structure that gives support and credence to reliable results, and that would include protocols, SOPs. It would include the case documentation, laboratory notes about what you did, how you did it, chain of custody documents, electronic records as needed, and hopefully at the end of it, a report that includes conclusions and information about what was done. And then the next question is, why would you want to do all of that? First of all, within the forensic DNA community, it's a part of our accreditation process and some of the standards that we adhere to as a community. Second, it's just best practice. The holding of the records, using them, creating them, and retaining them, you never know if you're going to need them to refer back to them in your own notes, or we mandate a technical review of all of this data, so a second quality analyst will look over all of your laboratory notes, all of the work you did, and your reports, and make sure that they agree with it and would come out to the same conclusions for the discovery request. So, okay. At IMF, we have typical documentation that we would send to our clients that would include a report of all of the case notes and laboratory documentation associated with that. Outside of that, we oftentimes get requests for more than that information. What is our validations? What is our quality manual, competency tests for our personnel, their training and education, a whole list of support documents that are within our quality management system that also are important in accreditation of our laboratory. I sense a little bit of anger there. Kind of like, don't you dare try to be telling me we ain't on the uppity up over here. You know, like, I don't know. That's what I'm getting out of this. So Mhm. I was just reading the chat. Before you became a 501c3, was your laboratory accredited? I mean, that just means that you're a nonprofit. So even previous to becoming a 501c3, since the inception of the company in 2019, even before we no longer did laboratory operations, we got accredited by ANAV ISO 17025. That was on our accreditation scope, included traditional forensic STRs, YSTRs, and eventually we included within our scope forensic SNPs massively parallel sequencing that encompasses accreditation for this whole genome sequencing in support of forensic investigative genetic genealogy that we did. Next question was, is there a set of guidelines or rules that apply to work with DNA to split that DNA water balloon open? Yes, and I think you've heard testimony to that. There's accreditation standards. ISO 17025 is the big one, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation Quality Assurance Standards. For forensic DNA testing laboratories, those are common. I would say more so almost required within the forensic DNA community. And those are standards that dictate our quality management system as a whole, what we do, how we do it, how we support it, how we document, and how we report. Question, is that important so there's public trust in what you do? More so public trust for sure, but reliability and reproducibility of results, transparency, and just ensuring a full quality behind your conclusions and reports. Question, Mr. Hellwig, you mentioned the size of the two SNP profiles for GEDmatch Pro and Family Tree DNA. 550,000 or 650,000 seems to be the maximums. If you had a case where you had produced a file to upload, an upload file, and it had, let's say, 600,000 in it, could you take that text file and turn it into twice that big? I'm not sure how we would do that. No. An important note here is that just IMF's policy, we generated upload files specific to each one of the databases, and that's the number we had within our bioinformatic package. That's not necessarily what would be true of others. That being said, if theoretically we were to deliver our upload file to our client and it, say, had 500,000 SNPs on it, I don't know of a mechanism to add SNPs in that manner without going back to our raw data. In this particular case, in this particular case, I know you have gotten involved in all of the ins and outs, but did we provide to you what we received in regular discovery, the Authrum file and the FBI file, upload files? Yes, I did receive the two upload files. One was a text file that came from Authrum Labs, and one was an Excel file that came from the FBI. Is that also an upload file? Yep, both of them are upload files. They contain exactly that, a listing of SNPs, the call, and their location in a format that would allow them to be uploaded to databases. What was the difference in size? The FBI upload file had significantly more SNPs called than the Authrum file. I wasn't able to go deep into it. I don't know exactly how many more, but there was more SNPs called within the upload file for the FBI than there was the Authrum file. And since the Authrum file is smaller and it's a text file, you can tell how the FBI got so much more data, so many more SNPs. No, that's kind of an important part here. There's no documentation to say how this happened. And that's really the important part, right? I have no reason to believe that Authrum Laboratories did anything wrong to obtain their profile. I just don't have the documentation to show me how that came to be. Same with the FBI file. There's no documentation or notes or bench or report to say this is what I had, this is what I did, and this is now what I have. So I'm unsure of how that came to be. And then Anne says, "Thank you, Your Honor. If I may have just a moment to check with my team." And then she comes back, apparently, and says, "Mr. Hellwig, that's all I have. The prosecutor might have some for you." Judge Hippler says, "Go ahead." Mr. Nye decides, or that's when Mr. Nye comes to do his cross-examination for the prosecution. So his first question is, "Mr. Hellwig, I want to start with your accreditation testimony. Did I hear you correctly that your lab was accredited since inception in 2019? Our laboratory was accredited for traditional forensics. We began the accreditation in 2019, and I believe the first accreditation scope we received was in 2020. For forensic SNPs, our accreditation was January 20th of 2023, I believe. So you weren't accredited back in 2019 for forensic SNPs, correct?" "Correct. We weren't actually doing forensic SNPs at that time. But you were working on forensic SNP cases prior to your accreditation, correct?" "No, we specifically reserved working on these SNP cases until we received our accreditation." "Okay, do you recall describing the accreditation process as a chicken and egg problem?" Well, like, did the chicken come before the egg? I don't know if that's what it is, but it says, "I don't. You testified you worked at or work for Intermountain Forensics. That's correct. Do you post on their website?" "Sometimes, yeah." "Do you post in your name, Danny Hellwig?" "Certainly." "You don't recall posting in June of 2020 about accreditation being a chicken and egg problem?" "I don't recall. I'm certain that statement is on there, and I would need to recollect. Certainly. I'm happy to show this to you. That would be great." And then Miss Taylor steps in and says, may I also see it?" And Mr. Nye says, "Sure, sure, you can see it too." And then the witness says, yeah, I recall that. "Okay, like you knew, well, I don't care. You knew what you said on your website before that paper was given to you, and it says your name in that." I mean, just really, when people do things like that, it's just to see it, like if they're lying or something. I don't know, but yeah, you knew. Just like when people say that they didn't. "Oh, I didn't know I owed you money." That's like my favorite one. You know what I mean? Like you lend people some money, and then you never see it again. Like you just know. But if you ever say, "Hey, you remember that like $20 I lent you like 3 years ago? You said you pay me back like every day that I've seen you since then." You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I recall that. You know what I mean? Like, so then Mr. Nye comes back and says, "Okay, so do you now recall describing accreditation as a chicken and egg problem?" "Absolutely. It was several years ago. I appreciate that refresh of memory." "Sure, I remember things from a few years ago. I don't need a refresh, but okay." "Sure, in that same post, you talked about how you appreciated the trust of those that were using you before you were accredited, right?" "Correct, yes." "Do you feel like your work before accreditation was a lower quality than after accreditation?" "No, absolutely not." "I also want to talk to you about, you mentioned that Intermountain Forensics does, or at least used to do, some cases like this, right?" "Yes." "Assisting law enforcement?" "Correct, yes." "Roughly how many cases did you assist law enforcement in?" "That's a good question. We have a running total here, but I'm guessing in the hundreds." I think they meant to say we don't, but it says, "Okay, and what was your role personally in assisting law enforcement in those cases?" "I had several. I did consultations up front. I was qualified as an analyst for forensic SNPs. I did some technical review, and in some cases, I distributed files to our clients." "And when you say in the hundreds, you mean you went through that whole process you talked about with Miss Taylor in hundreds of cases?" "Yes." "Developing an SNP profile?" "I believe so, yes." "Okay, and in all of those cases, were you successful in developing an SNP profile?" "No." "In roughly how many cases were you successful in developing an SNP program?" "We were about, at the end of the laboratory operations, we were about 80%, somewhere in that range." "So 80% of hundreds?" "Yeah, I believe so." In the cases you successfully developed an S&P profile, did you learn medical information about the individuals whose DNA you were looking at? No. Did anyone at Intermountain Forensics learn medical information about those people? No. When you develop, I mean, you called it an upload file. Is that correct? Correct. What does an upload file look like if you just open it on a computer? It's just a text file, a very, very big. Again, it comes in different formats, but essentially what it is a text file. It is a big text file that has hundreds of thousands, in our cases, of SNPs that have a position, a name, what chromosomes they're found on, and the actual letters that we're looking for. Question. So if you provided that upload file to someone that didn't have any training or experience in genetics, would they be able to read it? Not in so much words. There's some headers on there, I guess, that would be narrative, but the molecular biology would be pretty complicated. So let me ask it this way, I guess. If you were to hand that upload file to your average police officer and ask them whether or not that person whose DNA you were looking at would have cancer, would that officer be able to do that? No. Why do they keep coming back to that? Like the medical part. Like they keep talking about medical. Something's going on here. Something's fishy's going on here. They keep talking about like cancer also, like, you know, like they're saying like you can't get like all the witnesses I feel like they've asked these questions to, like, you know, medical, can you get medical, like, and the DNA witnesses anyway, like, can you get any medical information out of someone's DNA? And like they keep saying no, but they keep going back to that question, like rewording it, and they've said twice now about cancer. So I don't know if they're just using that as a generic term or, you know what. Is Mary Beth having a bad night? She needs to like not talk about that until she leaves, because it's just too much for the chat. What additional steps would you need to take to learn medical information from an SNP program above and beyond that you were doing at Intermountain Forensics? Well, SNPs are informative to a variety of different things. So what we're looking for is a genealogy, informative markers or ancestry link informative markers to find health information or phenotype or phenotypical, like hair color, eye color. You need to look at different SNPs. There's a horde of research on what medical information is out there and what SNPs are probative. To gain access to those SNPs, you would have to go back into the bioinformatics, pull that information from the raw data specific to the medical SNPs that you're looking for. That's not something we did at IMF. So if I'm understanding correctly, at IMF, you developed SNP profiles, but they were specific for ancestry. Genealogy and ancestry, yes. Why didn't you develop SNPs related to medical information? That's not part of our scope. We are a forensic DNA testing laboratory. We're generating FIG profiles for the support and upload into these genealogy databases. It wouldn't be relevant nor probative or appropriate. Question. Did you, when you helped these law enforcement agencies, did you ever follow those cases to see if there were successes at the end? Sometimes we delivered files to our partners. In some cases, we had an forensic investigative genetic genealogy team that worked the cases on the investigation side. But in some cases, our clients would come back to us and let us know that they've gotten a result or they have had a case resolution. And you participate in, this is a question, and you participate in the, I don't know exactly what you call it, in the FIG community. Would you consider yourself a member of the FIG community? It's kind of weird. I mean, they're in the lawyer community. I mean, what do you mean? Yeah, or I guess, yeah, there's a variety of different groups, I guess, and message boards and information pathways, and I try to be a part of that where I can. As a member of the FIG community, did you hear about other people's success stories using FIG? Absolutely. Have you ever heard of a FIG case that was successfully solved using medical information? No, never. Mr. Nye says, just 1 second, Your Honor. No further questions. Our dude Hippler says, any redirect. I don't even know why he asked. He should just say, and go ahead. She says, yes, thank you. So then the redirect examination starts. And the first question is, full genome sequencing is the whole genome everything. Is that what that means? Yes, the whole genome sequence is the attempt to sequence the entire genome, if possible. Now, I heard you talking to the prosecutor about what you didn't look at with medical information, but I thought I heard you talk about when you got down to the S&P, those S&Ps weren't called from the whole genome. Did I hear that right? I would have to rephrase that a little bit. Please do. Rephrasing. When we're dealing with whole genome sequencing, we're attempting to sequence the entire genome, and in turns into that raw file, that FASTQ file that I mentioned before. Now, the next step is the bioinformatic pathway. The bioinformatic pathway is going to be targeting specific SNPs in question that we want to solve the question for. We want to answer the question for. In our case, these are genetic genealogy or ancestry informative markers, those SNPs that provide information for genealogical, I can't even say it. Okay, I'm done. And ancestry. How many times have we said this today? Genealogy. I cannot pronounce it for my life. My life depended on that. The bioinformatics that we would use at IMF would be specifically targeting those particular SNPs. But the raw data, the sequence data, still has the entire list of SNPs. We just aren't pulling that piece of information out. So if you handed me a case with your notes, protocols, and procedures, could I look at what you did at whole genome sequencing and know you were targeting only genealogy SNPs? Would that be fair to say? With the right knowledge base, yes. The list of SNPs are included where they are, and the name on the upload file and are all there. You can do the research to look at that and say, okay, these are genealogical or ancestry informative markers. If I had a file with notes that talked about how bioinformatics was used, what to produce, and what kind of SNPs to produce, and handed it to somebody like you, could you tell me these are the ones that go to the ancestry issues, that go to genealogy issues, and if I had the notes from somebody else? I would have to do some research, to be honest with you. The SNPs in question that we are using are all derived from these genealogical databases. So it's the GEDmatch Pro, Family Tree DNA, Ancestry.com. Those are the ones who have decided which SNPs to use, and we just use them as a tool. So what is the SNPs that's best upload into the Family Tree DNA Law Enforcement Database or GEDmatch Pro? And so when we are bioinformatically pulling out the SNPs, we're doing so under the direction of what they want from us. Could I determine if there's medical information within those SNPs or SNPs with medical information? Yes, but it would be a lot of research. I just have a couple of questions for you about the prosecutor, about what the prosecutor talked about besides that. He asked you about the chicken and egg problem and different cases you've done and the hundreds of cases that you've done before. You told us that it's important to have protocols and procedures and keep your information, keep your notes. Did you do that in those cases? Oh, yes. Within the quality management system as a whole and adhering to our procedures and protocols and the accreditation standards that we derive to, it's all that. It's case documentation, laboratory report, and then the foundation behind it. Validation summaries, competency testing for personnel, their educational requirements. All that has been done in those cases to adhere to our own internal policies. I think what Anne's trying to do here is say, well, look at these people I'm bringing in. Look at these experts in DNA. They all say that they would have lab notes, that they would have all the documentation and all of it. So to the point where somebody just like me could look at their notes and look at their computer and I would know exactly what they're talking about. I think she's doing that to throw shade on the FBI because as we've heard, they were using like Post-it notes. They threw them away or something. I don't know. That really wasn't what they were doing, but they didn't have a lot of, I guess, notes and that we've seen so far in documentation. Now, when we get closer to trial and maybe Anne just hasn't seen it in the discovery because she's up to her eyeballs in discovery and she's too busy putting in more discovery requests to look at the discovery that she has. I mean, maybe she'll find it. Maybe it's in there. There is a reason why Bill Thompson is so laid back and cool as a cucumber, man. Like, and I don't think he'd be like that if he wasn't 1,000,000% on what they have. Now, maybe because we don't know everything. We won't know everything until August. We may know a little, we'll probably know a lot more by the time we get there to August, but with the gag order, maybe not so much. But I think that Judge Hippler is, I feel like loosening the strings to that almost. It says all that has done in those cases and adhere to our own internal policies. So the next question, well, thank you. That's it for me. That was not a question, but the court says, thank you. You can step down. Does the defense have other witnesses? And Ms. Taylor says, Your Honor, for the IGG, I have one other witness this morning. How long is that one? I think she's a little bit longer. Let's take a 30-minute break. They take a break. And here comes Leah Larkin. They swear her in. Sorry, my leg's itching. It's this scar. I hate that. Every once in a while, it'll itch. Do you guys have scars like that? That'll itch. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Will you say your whole name? Yes, my name is Leah Larkin. And they spell it. What do you do for work? I'm a genetic genealogist. What kind of background and training do you have? I have an undergraduate degree in biology from Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, and I have a PhD in biology, specifically in the field of botany from the University of Texas at Austin. How long have you worked in genetic genealogy? I started doing it as an amateur in, I believe, in 2013, and I started taking professional clients in 2016. Well, then you started doing it in 2016, honey. I'm gonna start using that. If I become on the news, if something happens and I'm like on the news or something, I don't know. I'm gonna say, I remember my little start when I was an amateur. I'm gonna say I've been doing this since 2023. It'll be like 2050 if that ever happens. Just kidding. You never know. So it says, what does it mean when you take professional clients? Most of my clients are people like an adoptee or somebody with an unknown father who is trying to identify that particular relative. So I can use their direct-to-consumer genealogy DNA test, build family trees, and work to identify their biological family. So your work happens after the S&P is produced? Yes. Do I understand that right? Yes. Do you know what whole genome sequencing is? I do. I have not done it myself, but my training in biology, I understand what it is. Based on your work in genealogy, are you aware of what kinds of things are contained in the whole genome sequencing file? Right. As few of the earlier witnesses have said, the genome is basically the blueprint. It's the instruction manual for your body. So first of all, it makes you human, but it also can determine your hair color, your physical traits, your eye color, And there are a lot of genes that are going to be associated with other things, like whether you have the propensity for Alzheimer's or your height, your weight. Basically, all of the traits that make us unique, for the most part, are coded in our genes, our DNA, and one or more genes. Is there any aspects in your field where medical information can be known? Yes. So the DNA tests that are used for genetic genealogy are called microarrays. So when you split in a tube and send it off to one of these companies, they're going to do what's called a microarray. A microarray test was designed for biomedical research. They aren't designed for genealogy. Genealogy was like an afterthought. These are tests that were created specifically to target physical traits, health traits, and it just happens to be used for genealogy as well. So even if I do a test and don't look at those traits, they're still in that data file. When you get the work, do you have to make a choice as to what kind of database you're going to do your research in? Yes. So if I'm taking a client who is, for example, an adoptee, I will have them test at Ancestry and 23andMe. So those are two companies where you actually have to send in a spit sample to get into their database. They don't take data files from other sources. The most cost-effective way to do this is for an adoptee is to test at those two companies and then take one of the data files you get from, say, Ancestry, and upload it into the smaller databases. That way you don't have to pay for a whole new test. You don't have to wait to mail it off and have the lab run it and get the results back. You can normally get your results in a day or two after you do the upload. For an adoptee, there aren't really restrictions on which databases you can use because they are all generally created for amateur genealogists. We talked a little bit today about databases that have restricted use. Or was it? Oh, and the answer was yes. What does that mean? So forensic genetic genealogy, which is also sometimes called investigative genetic genealogy, and then there's the combination FIG. Just because we can't decide that it's restricted to two main databases, there's Family Tree DNA, which we call FTDNA for short, and then there's GEDmatch. And those are the only two databases of any significant size that allows FIG searching. Ancestry forbids it, 23andMe forbids it, MyHeritage forbids it. Does GEDmatch have two sides to it? Yeah, actually, both GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA have a specific upload process for forensic kits. We call these tests a kit. So if you're a normal, regular adoptee, you can upload through the main layperson portal. But if it's a forensic kit, it's supposed to go through a special upload process. At GEDmatch, they call that GEDmatch Pro. Family Tree DNA does not have a special name for it to my knowledge, but there is a special process you're supposed to go to. And those kits that are uploaded through the forensic portal are restricted in which other kits they can see. The idea is that if you don't want to participate in a forensic search, if you're a layperson and you don't want to participate, you can opt out. And so a kit that is uploaded through the forensic portal should not be able to see a layperson kit that is opted out. Do you know why these databases have these different, abilities or rules? Yeah, I'm sure we're all familiar with the Golden State Killer case. Yeah, we are. At least we've heard about it. That's the first big criminal case that was solved using this type of genetic genealogy. And we've talked about that. I said if Brian Kohlberger looked like him, we wouldn't be having half of these conversations. Because no one said a damn word about dude that the Golden State Killer. No one cares a lick if he's in prison or not. His own babies probably would have put him in jail. Serial killer. Keep grinding up. Thank you, Mary Beth. There she is. I'm gonna have to kidnap you. You make my belly hurt whenever bad stuff is happening. I don't like it. Oh, look at that. We got some new members. Keep grinding up. Look at that. We do. We do have, we do have the best group. 20 years. Yeah. I was wondering where Aries was actually. I was thinking about that too earlier. My little Aries P-Orc. He needs to change his name back. I always say Aries P-Orc, and everyone's probably like, who is Aries P-Orc? Aries. So that was the first big criminal case that was solved. So using that kind of genetic genealogy, the same that they got with Brian. So there had previously been one doe, unknown remains, that had been identified a few weeks earlier. I think that wouldn't have been for Long Island, would it? But I thought that they used genetic genealogy. I don't know. But the Golden State Killer case is the one that got all the media attention. On the other hand, there were people who were really excited about the prospect of capturing violent criminals using this method. At the flip side, there were a lot of genealogists who were really concerned that they might be drawn into criminal investigations without their knowledge or consent. And so the community split. There were a lot of Facebook groups. A lot of genetic genealogy is just done through Facebook groups. And some of these Facebook groups just basically forbid it. You can't talk about this at all because it was causing too much conflict within the community. I went to a conference shortly after the Golden State Killer case was announced, and I was a speaker, and they pulled all the speakers aside and said, don't talk about it at all. You're not even allowed to mention it at all. This is how contentious it was in the community. So the databases, realizing that this was a problem, so Ancestry, 23andMe, and MyHeritage all very quickly changed their terms of service to say, no, you can't do this on our databases. GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA over the course of the past few years have kind of involved these systems in response to public outcry about privacy and consent, and also in response to some breaches and some missteps on the part of the companies themselves and on the part of some of the genetic genealogists who, so they evolved these systems to allow the users to opt out if they don't want to participate. So in the public outcry, the public outcry, that was people that didn't want their profile searched by law enforcement. Right. Prior to this, there had been occasional discussions in the genealogy community, people saying, oh, the cops are going to get our data, and other people were like, no, they only use CODIS, so they're not going to use our databases. And it turns out they were. The Golden State Killer case was being investigated. I'm not sure exactly when it started, I think 2017, and he was arrested in April of 2018. So law enforcement or genealogists working on behalf of law enforcement were in fact using the databases without the knowledge or consent of the regular person. Genealogists who were in the databases. I didn't know that it was that long ago. So was it 2018 when the terms of service used and people's privacy rights were recognized? So there's been a whole series of changes to the terms of service. So I can't speak too precisely which dates and which databases and which changes. What can you tell us? I recall that MyHeritage, within a few weeks of the Golden State Killer being arrested, changed their terms of service to explicitly say, not in our database. Okay, so all right, let's talk about this case. Were you brought on to help us in this case? You were brought by Ann Taylor. Yes, I was brought on to help you interpret and understand what was done in terms of the genetic genealogy for this case. What did you look at to do that? Well, it's been a bit of a struggle getting all the material I would like to look at. So I've seen basically photos of a giant kind of poster scroll of a family tree that I believe the FBI built at Ancestry.com. I've seen pictures of a whiteboard in which they sort of like hand wrote on the whiteboard a descendant tree. So basically looking at some ancestors and mapping out the descendants lines leading to certain DNA matches. I've seen communications between, in some cases, I can see who the recipients are, in some I can't, but I've seen a lot of email communications about the case. Do you want me to go on? No, in the course of your work to try to help us understand what happened here, did you learn the first Othram worked on the case and then the FBI took over? Yes. So Othram, I believe they were contracted based on the invoice I've seen. They were contracted to do the lab work. So to actually generate an SNP profile, upload it to GEDmatch Pro and Family Tree DNA, presumably through the approved portals. And then I believe they were contracted to do the genetic genealogy. But they were told to stop work, I believe, on December 10th. And I've seen the preliminary report they wrote. All right. Have you had a chance to look at what happened after December 10th? So after December 10th, there were some email communications between. The one I think was most interesting to me had the names redacted and it contained screenshots. So just to backtrack a little bit, the Othram report reported 2 main DNA matches. One of them shared 70.7 centimorgans of DNA. And the court reporter said, I'm sorry, 70.7, like what? Centimorgans. Do you know how to spell that? And we just abbreviate it CM. Man, I needed a little break. Oh no. SSD, we're praying for you. And thank you, Mary Beth, again. Wow, thank you. If y'all been gifted, just make sure you tell Mary Beth. Thank you. And if anyone says it on the replay or like in the comments, I'll let them know. Wasn't me. They either calmed or he's really made her mad. And she's like, I'm going and gifting him memberships. It's either one or the other. There's no in between. But I hope everything's okay. I really do. And you know we're here. So it says the other one I think was 60, and Othram's report specifically said those are low matches. Okay, so okay. Othram figured out how those 2 people were related to one another. All right, we're gonna read this again. What the hell? What? Or maybe they're talking about Kohlberger and his dad. Wait, hold on. No, they are not. Okay. Remember last night when I said I thought the 4 guys, the brothers or whatever, were Kohlberger's cousins? Well, maybe they were. So I don't know. This is so weird. So to backtrack a bit, the Othram report reported 2 main DNA matches. One of them shared 70.7 centimorgans of DNA. The other one, I think it was 60. And Othram's report specifically said those are low matches. Othram figured out how those 2 people were related to one another. I believe they were third cousins to one another. And based on how much DNA they shared with the crime scene profile, they thought that the individual who contributed the crime scene profile was a descendant from the second great-grandparent of those 2 matches. A man named Redacted and his wife Redacted. I believe they were their names and they were born in the Redacted. So, wow. Okay. So question, when Othram quit work, were they following a family tree that they could have led and come to Brian Kohlberger? Yes. So based on my initial review of what they did, the crime scene profile was most likely descended from Redacted and Redacted. Or perhaps one of their siblings. So I'm assuming that this is going to say like his mom and dad's names. It's hard to tell with DNA because it's not all third cousins share exactly the same amount of DNA. Some share more, some share less. It's just kind of the statistics game you play. The couple had redacted children, and so their conceivability could have been hundreds of descendants of this couple. How many kids they have? I feel like this is like my sister-in-law's family tree. Like she has 11 brothers and sisters, 11 siblings. She's the 11th, but they all have like so many kids. Like, I've just seen they had redacted children. Othram chooses one of those children and had tracked down, I believe, grandchildren, and there were 4 brothers. They recommended testing one of those brothers to get more DNA to get a closer handle on where their crime scene profile might fit into that family. And that brother said, hell no, we ain't going. He said, nah, it was like, not my family. Like, really? He was like, you ain't taking my family. That's what he said, too. I don't know why it looks so dark in here tonight, but it does. I look like really dark. Like, I don't have a light on. Just now realizing that. I think this one's actually not as bright as it's supposed to be. I don't want to mess with it. Okay. So when Othram stops there and the FBI takes over, you told us that you saw something from Ancestry.com. Would you have expected to see any other kind of file with that file? Answer. So this was basically like a giant poster-sized printout of information from that family tree. A family tree, when you build one at Ancestry, it's stored in a specific kind of data format, or more precisely, you can download the file in a specific type of data format called a GEDCOM. And it's a universal file format for genealogy trees. So you could take a GEDCOM file and you could open it up in standalone software on your laptop and could upload it to a different genealogy company. I have a GEDCOM file for every single client case that I do. When I'm finished with an adoptee case, I basically give my client the GEDCOM file so they can have record of all the work that I did. And I would have expected the FBI to have that as well, but they did not turn that over. You didn't see one of those? I did not see one of those, no. Knowing that Othram finished their work on December 10th and then the FBI took over, and we've heard that by December 19th, 9 days later, they'd made an identification. Is that significant to you? Yeah. Why? Because Othram's matches were, as in their own words in their report, those matches were low. They were recommending testing these 4 redacted brothers to get more information. If you went out and if you approached those men, and even if one of them said, yes, you can test my DNA, the testing itself would have taken some time. Getting a kit to a person, getting the spit, sending it into the lab, having it analyzed, and it wouldn't have led to the crime scene profile because it was the wrong family branch. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they, when they do the trash pull at Kohlberger's house, all that evidence, didn't they fly that back to Idaho and have Idaho labs do testing on it? I'm pretty sure that's what they did. So, I mean, that cuts the time in half. I mean, just saying. It says, and it wouldn't have led the crime scene profile because it was the wrong family branch. So I'm going from low matches to an ID, or at least a trip, whatever they're calling it, within 9 days. That right there told me they had gone into a database they were not supposed to be in. Oh, and you know that for sure, don't you? I know a lot of people that are very sure on their words, though. Hey, PJs. No, yeah, I think they sent it back. I'm pretty sure they sent it back to Idaho because we're thinking like it was like 24 hours later and it like they had it back. It was like crazy. Oh, me too. True crime lullabies. Like I don't know. I have a opinion, and it's called leave the families alone. Not you, but like people. If you're still if people are still covering that case every single day, it's been a year, they need to branch out just a little. It says, were there any other ways that you were able to confirm your belief? Yes. I feel like this is like someone tattling. I don't know why, but I do. What was that? So one of them in one of those email communications, I believe this is the one that had both the sender and recipient redacted. There were screenshots from GEDmatch, and I believe it said, so there were screenshots. How do I put this in GEDmatch? GEDmatch has a very open system. So if you are in GEDmatch and I am in GEDmatch, and let's say we were cousins, I could go in and look at my kit and I would see you in my match list. But I could also go into your kit and see me in your match list. GEDmatch is just a super open database in that way. Any kit in the system that is public, you can see their matches. The one exception, however, is that if there are forensic kits in that database and I am a layperson and I'm looking at a layperson kit, I can't see the forensic kits. They are invisible to me. But there is an email communication that has a match list from the perspective of somebody who only used the initials SC. I guess it was just maybe somebody that I have no idea who this real person's real name is. In the database, they are called SC. This screenshot is taken from the perspective of SC, and there is a match to the forensic profile from SC's perspective. That tells me that the forensic profile was uploaded through the regular GEDmatch portal and not the GEDmatch Pro forensic portal, because it should not have been visible to SC. And the email says this one's ours. The other thing is that GEDmatch will also tell you how many days a kit has been in their system, and for that kit for the match to SC, it had been in the database for 1 day. But Othram had uploaded it. I'm not sure exactly when, but I would say 6 to 7 to 8 days prior, so it should not have said the kit was only 1 day old. Question. So based on that email and what you saw, it confirmed your belief that the FBI used a non-allowed, and she cuts her off, right? So that was one. There were several lines of evidence. That was one of them that stood out to me early on, that they had uploaded through the layperson portal of GEDmatch so that they could see all the people that were opted out. Even if they could see the people that were opted out, right? It doesn't give them their DNA. So they're going to have a list of names of people that are opted out. I mean, everybody's going to be on that list. How would you even go? I don't even know how you would even go about trying to find somebody, match their DNA if they opted out. Unless their DNA is still stored in the system and then they somehow can get to their, I don't even know how they'd be able to get to their DNA. When you said billboards, for some reason, I was thinking like something else. I was thinking like billiards or something. True crime lullabies. I was like, I'm gonna play pool. Are we playing pool tonight? Are we shooting? What is that called? Can't even think of the word right now. I'm getting too tired from reading. I can't even speak. Okay, so we'll keep on going. It says there were a couple of other matches. One of them was actually 250 centimorgans, which is something we get excited about in genealogy. And one of them was closer to 70 that were not in the Othram report. If Othram had seen the one who shared 250 centimorgans, that would have been in their report. Like, their genealogists are good. They know what they're doing. They would not have ignored a 250 centimorgan match. And based on those other two matches at that point, I was pretty sure they had gone into the MyHeritage database. Question. While you were reviewing this information so you could learn and try to figure out what happened here, did you have the ability to call anybody from the FBI and say, hey, what is going on? Her question was, I don't know who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Question, why is that? Her answer is, it's not in the information that we received. Is that the part that was redacted? I don't know if it was redacted or if we just never got it. So there was that one email that was redacted, a redacted sender and a redacted recipient. Presumably, those were the people doing the genealogy work. But other than that, I have no idea who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Are there other ways the FBI went where they were not supposed to go? There was one piece of information in the discovery material that I did review. I believe we asked them to turn over the match list, and they were like, oh, we can't turn over the whole match list because it was 20,000 people. And that actually right there was a big tip off, because if they had only used GEDmatch Pro and only used Family Tree DNA, I think at most they could have gotten to about 10,000. So that right there tipped me off that they were in a database that they should not have been able to be in. And then Anne's question is, during the course of our work to try to understand what happened here, did you assist us with reviewing documentation and teaching us what else should have been there that we needed to ask for? What specifically? Well, about the databases, they went in and matched the match list. And this cuts her off. Right. So we talked about what you see in a match list. We talked about the fact that you can download the match list at Family Tree DNA. They're just a click button to download it, and you'll get a CSV file, which you can open in a word processor or you can open in a spreadsheet program. At GEDmatch, you can also get the whole match list. So you would have gotten that. I tend to do that for my clients just so if I'm not online, I can still work through their materials and I can report that back to them. Question: and did you testify in a motion to compel hearing to try to get that information so we could tell and confirm that you believed about the FBI going into a non-allowed database? Yes. And do you know if sometime after that we received confirmation that they did? We did finally get a letter from the FBI in which we specifically asked to know which of the matches were in which of the databases, and they did not tell us that, but they did give us a list of the databases they had uploaded to, and it included Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch Pro. Those are the two databases they are allowed to use. But it also listed GEDmatch, not GEDmatch Pro, but GEDmatch. They're not allowed to go into the regular GEDmatch portal. And then finally, they admitted they had uploaded to MyHeritage. Ms. Taylor says, Your Honor, I am at D26 and I can pass this copy to the court. I would ask that it be shown to the witness first. And Hippler says, what's the red number on it? Your Honor, the red number is 999. And he says, notice of in-camera submission. She says, yes. And he says, all right, go ahead. Oh, 12 months? Serious? Look at that. You got your little... Did your arm change after 6 months or a year? I can't remember. No, it changes again after a year. After a year. So it's like the titanium arm. We got to get another one. We got to get another one because y'all are getting up there. He said 25, I think 25K, but we might be able to get him down to 20K subs. I think we might be able to do that, Walt. And thank you for being a member for a year. That's a long time. Hell, that's a long time. You know? Hey, Tennessee gal. Man. And hey, Mike. It's a long time. Haven't ran you off yet. I'm so glad that you're part of it. I'm so glad you're part of the channel. Your insight's amazing. So then she's gonna talk again. Dr. Larkin, will you thumb through that? It's towards the back page. Okay. Do you recognize that? Yes. The second one to the last page, it says below are genealogy services utilized by the FBI. Question. And what does it tell you? It says Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch Pro, GEDmatch, and MyHeritage. Thank you. Ms. Taylor said, would Your Honor like the copy they have there? And Hippler says, I think it's part of the record you submitted, so I have a copy. Okay, thank you. She says, give me 1 minute to check with my team. I do have another question. What is Prometheus? Prometheus? I'm going to say Prometheus. Is a third-party site, so it's not part of Ancestry, not part of MyHeritage. Actually, MyHeritage owns it now. It's a site where you can take the S&P profile that you get from any of the companies and upload it to the site, and it will basically look for medically informative S&Ps in your profile, and it will do reports on them. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like a nominal fee, like $12 or something, and it will do a report of all of the S&Ps that you have in your profile. If you had my S&P, you could do that and find out. Yes, I could do it on, if someone has done a genealogy test for $12, I could put it into the Prometheus system and get trait reports and health records or reports. How extensive is that information you could get? It's pretty comprehensive. I mean, you will get reams and reams of reports. I should say that how do I put this? There are a lot of traits that are controlled by multiple genes. And so if a trait is controlled by multiple genes, I can't say for certain, yes, you're going to go Alzheimer's. No, you're not going to get Alzheimer's. It's more of a risk factor. But you can look at the multiple reports and see if they're, for example, giving you an increased risk of Alzheimer's or whatever other traits are in the system. If you have an increased risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer, or anything else out there. For $12. Yes. Thank you. That's all my questions. Hold on a minute. The prosecutor might have one for you. And he does. So the question is, so you testified that when people come to you wanting to do genealogy tests, you recommend Ancestry, DNA, and 23andMe. Is that correct? Yes. And one of the reasons you recommend those two is because they have the most users in the database. Is that correct? Yes. And the reason why that's important is because when you're looking for Ancestry, really the best database for you is the one that has your closest relatives in it, right? Yes. But you can't know that until you use the database. So you just use the one with the most users. There are two reasons to start with those two companies. One is because they have the largest two databases, and then because you cannot upload into those databases, you have to test with them. You can test at Ancestry and then get into the MyHeritage and Family Tree DNA and GEDmatch databases for trivial amounts of money. Whereas if you tested at Family Tree DNA first, the only way you're going to get into Ancestry database is by doing another test. This is going to help me out whenever I go to do my own little DNA test. So I'm going to save some money. So I always recommend starting with the biggest, and then if you want more databases, you can upload into the smaller ones. And one of the reasons you might want more databases is so you can get more matches, right? Yes. So you can gather more information that way. And typically that's why people are coming and asking you about these databases, is because they want more information about their family. Correct? People generally come to me because they need help interpreting the matches that they have. This next question, I want to talk a little bit about the number of users in these databases. So we've been discussing the ones that were on the list you read from the document the FBI indicated they used in this case. Do you remember that list? On that list, do you know which of those databases has the fewest number of users? I believe Family Tree DNA is currently about 1.8 million. It's not an exact number, but I think that's probably about where they are right now. GEDmatch is, I think, a little over 2 million. And MyHeritage recently announced they were at 9 million. And when you say 1.8 million, you mean 1.8 million other people that have utilized their services and that you potentially could match with if you utilize that service. Yes. Is that correct? I have a copy of questions for you on this Prometheus. You mentioned it costs $12. I believe you said. I think it's 12. Why would someone utilize Prometheus instead of just reading their S&P profile themselves? The S&P profile is basically just a list of, there's a location code, but it's going to be something like RS 23744. And you're not going to know what RS, I don't even know what number. I just made that number up. You're not going to know what that S&P is. You're not going to know what gene it's a part of. You're not going to know whether an A or a T is good or bad. Prothomes takes your data file and references published literature on what those S&Ps might impact in terms of traits, and then produces a report from that. Oh, thanks, Mary Beth. We hit 19,000. Can you believe that? It's exciting. When I looked last night, we literally had hit like right at 19,000, and I was like, one of y'all better subscribe. I was like, actually, a few of you, because I was like, so it makes me feel better, you know? Because like, you know, you never know. So where were we at here? So even you, for example, if you wanted to know your medical information, you had your own S&P profile, you wouldn't just attempt to read it. You would use a service like Prothomes. Yes. No further questions. Thank you. Redirect. No, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. You can step down now. Let me grab my chapstick. I thought they only did 2 witnesses. Maybe they do 3. Oh, no, they talk for a minute. That's what it is. So is that the state's last witness on this issue? Defense, yes, Your Honor. Pardon me, defense. This is the court. I'm used to the state going first on things. I apologize. So it says, does the state have witnesses? Your Honor, no, we're not going to call Dr. Middleman. And then Hippler, I'm trying to recall what I said about argument on this issue, whether I said we could do this publicly or not. I want the parties' input on that as we make that decision, whether we can argue the Franks and suppression issue on IGG publicly. I know your position is we should, but in light of my ruling, can you? Ms. Taylor says, Your Honor, I'm going to refer to what the FBI did here. I'm going to refer to the Department of Justice interim policy. I can probably not name the 4 brothers that the state lab tested. Hippler says, okay, can we avoid talking about the fact of the 4 brothers? I understand that that's there, but I'm not gathering the import of it on the issue at hand. I think you could reference that there was some information that was in itself insufficient to generate a profile, and I know what you're talking about. Ms. Taylor, I'm trying to think of how I could do it. I want to make sure I've made a really good record here. A record is very important. Of course. She says, I think I can talk about Otham's recommendations that were attempted to be followed, but nothing worked. I think I can do that. Maybe after hearing the evidence, if there's a ground the court really wants me to stay away from, other than saying the 4 brothers, maybe that would be helpful to know. I'll do my best, Your Honor, but I really want to make a good record for Mr. Kohlberger. And Hippler says, counsel. And Mr. Nye says, Your Honor, I think we can probably do the argument publicly. I don't need to reference the brothers. I don't need to reference any of the specific names. As I explained earlier, and as the court has seen, we didn't put on evidence one way or the other as to whether the policy was followed, for example, so that part of the argument is even assuming. From our perspective, I think we can probably do the argument publicly. Hippler says, I thought I made it clear. What I've tried to do is to open up evidence, whether for the state or against the state in this case, that potentially is not coming into trial that could influence potential jurors. I didn't hear a lot of that today. I think the fact that there was investigative genetic or genealogy done in this case is not necessarily a secret, given that we publicly talked about that. We're going to talk about that. I think that more specific things about what happened within that, it's best if we kind of refer to that more generally in terms of like the 4 brothers and whatnot. I think, frankly, it's appropriate to discuss how law enforcement handled the profiles they had received. I think it's appropriate to talk about whether or not those profiles, what privacy is at issue in those profiles. I think that obviously the state is going to talk about standing and other issues and your client's specific privacy rights with respect to this, so I think that's appropriate. I think it's kind of ironic that Ann Taylor wants to bust out these four brothers' names or whatever, right? But she wants to keep Brian Kohlberger's name a secret from DNA. So I think they're generally okay staying away from some of the specifics that I'm not sure that ultimately would be admissible at trial. Even if I were to say, well, admissible at trial, the whole IgG issue, I'm not sure that's going to be admissible at trial. I suspect the search, the trash pull, is going to be admissible at trial, and that genealogical match allegedly to Mr. Kohlberger's father, as I understand it, and the lack of attempt to figure out, I think, what I'm understanding, at least from the testimony, the attempt to figure out the mixed profile. So I think that's all fine. Okay. So it says the attempt to figure out the mixed profile. The preference is staying away from the specifics as to what those genealogy searches showed. More specifically, that we talked about the brothers and the names of the individuals who were testified to, if that makes sense. And Ann says it does. We had an affidavit attached to the back, I think, of our reply briefing on the suppression issue. I want to make sure the court looks at that. That's admitted as evidence, and I probably don't want to refer to that publicly. Would you like my copy? And Hippler says, what was the date of the filing? It should have been the 19th, December 19th. Hippler says, what was the name of the document? Reply to, objection to. And Ann says, this is the reply to the state's objection to the motion to suppress IgG material. And Hippler says, it's not showing on the 19th. Oh, here we go. It was on the 20th. What is it you want to reference in the argument with respect to this affidavit? She says, standing your honor, I don't need to reference that particularly. I just wanted to draw the court's attention to it. Okay. He says, in particular, the standing that the affidavit suggests that the unknown E was Mr. Kohlberger. Is that what I'm reading? No, that there was a sample within the trash that was Mr. Kohlberger's. What? He just said, what? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm not sure the state's arguing that there's no standing as to the trash. I think the standing argument related to the genetic testing through the companies and to the objection to the testing of materials found at the crime scene. Am I correct about that? And then Mr. Nye says, Your Honor, we did assert in our briefing standing. It was kind of in passing in the sense that we think the fact that it was a trash pull resolves that issue. Hippler says, I appreciate the trash pull legal issues in terms of privacy standing, but in terms of standing of this is not Mr. Kohlberger's DNA. So why am I hearing from him standing, which is part of what you argued on the IgG information, correct? And then Hippler says, there's that issue. I don't see that impacted here because it sounds like some of his DNA was in that trash. Didn't get all your DNA there, Kohlbergs. And then there's the standing issue, as I understand it, related to the extent that the defense is not conceding that the DNA found on the knife sheath was Mr. Kohlberger's. He has no position to object to the testing of the DNA and the knife sheath. No position to object to it. Sorry, yeah, can't object. Correct. Hippler says, I don't see there, frankly, is an argument as to the standing issue of not his DNA as it relates to the trash pool. That's just how I see it. If you think that's different and you need to make that argument, you need to let me know so I know what we're getting into. Mr. Nye said, no, Your Honor, that's not different than that. What happened is in the opening brief, they asserted there was DNA found in there, including an unidentified male. In the response, I said, well, that's not standing. You can't just say unidentified male. In the reply, they attached this saying, well, we looked at it and it was his. That's sufficient. Don't plan on arguing that point. And Hippler says, all right, are we all square then? Miss Taylor says, I think so. Hippler says, if you have a question of doubt to ask, hold on. If you have a question of doubt, ask to approach and we can go offline real quick. I would rather err on the side of being cautious than not. And then Miss Taylor says, may I have 5 minutes? And the court says, oh no, we're going to take more than that because I need the public to be notified. So we're going to take at least 15 to 20 minutes. Mr. Nye said, Your Honor, can I just briefly ask? We have some of the victims in the hallway. I guess they've been told by somebody they can come in when the hearing was open. And Hippler says, I'm not sure who would have told them that. Mr. Nye said, I don't know either. That's just what they're representing to us. We didn't understand that to be the court's. And then the court said, the problem is I don't want to have to chase them out. Absolutely understood completely. And then Hippler says, Sandra can have a TV in the conference room. They can watch it on. That's fine. And Mr. Nye said, okay, thank you, Your Honor. And I'm assuming that was like the Gonzalez's and thank you, Ladybug. Best creator, best content, best chat, best channel, best chat. Thank you. Y'all are the best. Y'all are bee's knees around here. You make it easy. Y'all make it easy. You really do. You really do make it easy on me. So it says, okay, thank you, Your Honor. And to my understanding, this is Hippler, is we can then go into the next evidentiary phase without a problem and it can be public correct. Mr. Nye, yes, from our perspective, Your Honor. Ms. Taylor says, Your Honor, I think our team might be a little bit confused about that. I think we thought that Franks might be next, but the court says, no, after the Franks. Okay, so I'll do suppression, IGG, and then, and the court interrupts her and says, we'll do the argument on that unless you want to just go straight into the evidence and come back to the argument on the Franks IGG. And she says, okay. And he says, and do it together within the suppression stuff. And she says, no, I plan to do that when I did all the Franks to address the entire Franks. I think I'm confused about when the court wanted me to do that. If you want me to take more evidence today, if we are going to argue IGG and be done, and then if the court wants to finish with evidence today, and then I will do Franks tomorrow, argument, the proper argument. And that's a question. The court said, Hippler, so my preference is because I don't want to get into an evidentiary phase of Franks, other than the issue of IGG, is to argue your Franks motion next, including the IGG and your proffer for the other Franks issue. And then we can go into evidence on the suppression issue. Does that make sense? She says, that does make sense, and that's perfectly fine. I might need a minute to pull that box out after we're done with this argument, if that's okay. And he said, sure, you can always have a minute when you need it. Mr. Nye said, Your Honor, I'm sorry to complicate things, but just to be clear, so over here, we've split that. Miss Jennings is handling the Franks, and I'm handling the direct IGG suppression. Is that okay if we split it that way? Sure. And he said, thank you, Mr. Nye did. And Hippler said, again, my thought was we would do all of the Franks, including the IGG stuff next, because I don't want to take evidence that is going to be said is part Franks. Because if the state then asserting it, I think I've cracked the egg on whether or not I can decide the issue prior to a Franks hearing. So that's why I want to have it wrapped up before I take more evidence. Okay. Mr. Nye says, sounds good. Court, all right, we'll take about 20 minutes. Let the public have notice. End of closed court proceedings. End of it. I tell you, what's this? This is just the court reporter saying that they're true. These are all true. She's the one that did it. Apparently. Hey, CJK, welcome in. Have a good night. Another ad. Are you getting ads, Princess? You're the only one that said you were getting them, other than Vincent, when I asked. So I don't know why the ads would be more tonight than any other. You know what I mean? wonder why you're getting ads. Yeah, I don't know. Because I didn't change anything. I wonder, I don't think that was why. You know how like whenever I first I didn't do do like subscriber only until like I was already on the live. That wouldn't make a difference because I didn't go into monetization. Yeah, and then her Frank's hearing was denied. Really? See, Vincent's the one who wrote me, and he's like, I'm getting ads. Like he was like, because he want like if there's a person in this room, in this house that wants you guys to have the best viewing experience ever, it's that guy right there. Like I want you to have a great viewing experience, but he just is on a whole nother scale. And my backlight is so dark tonight. You know what I think it is? I think it's because I accidentally messed with this light. I hit something, and Vincent said it has like 15,000 settings, and I don't know how to get back to the setting. That's why I'm like so dark. Because I have like a huge light on. Like now that I'm sitting back, you can see me. But like, that's what it is. We're have to move that light out. Yeah. Because it's like cutting off. The screen's cutting it off. So that's what it is. Like, see, I'm just so much brighter back here. I'm not trying to hide from you guys. I promise. I'm not trying to hide from you. You haven't gotten any, and you don't have the extra YouTube either? I have the premium because, I mean, well, I do it for y'all, but I do it for me too. I mean, if I didn't have premium, like not being a creator, like if I didn't have premium, just like as a watcher, I would be like, I'm one of those people that it would draw my attention away. Do you know what I mean? So I try not to do very many ads on this. I know. I wonder why you can't get gifted, Mike. I wonder if you get gifted like so many times if it just doesn't gift you anymore. I wonder. What are the ads? Or like what was the last ad that you got? Like what was it for? Like is it for something that you guys like to watch? Yeah, it wouldn't be me because it's not my ads. So never mind. I do on my if you go to this if you go to that link, it'll take you to the join button. I mean that's the only thing I could think of is like maybe like because like Aries has gotten gifted a lot, but not like a lot in here, I feel like. Like maybe once or twice. But I wonder if in general, if you get like a lot of, I don't know. Don't you say that to me, mister. It usually means like your channel's down. Like, let me go. Well, I see. Okay, it's right beside the members. Okay, I'll show you. Because that just scared me. That just scared me. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't do anything wrong, like, over here for my channel to be ever taken down. But, like, you know, there's been people that had their channel taken down by accident. Like, and they've had to go, like, YouTube, like, on Twitter and, like, you know, be like, please. So there's that document. What was I'm going to show you my page. Okay. So it's, like, right here by see all the people? Like, the people here. And then the join button's there. That's where it is on mine anyway. Good night, TCL. Because it used to be like up here somewhere. Like up, I think, like by your, I don't know, like by the links or something. But, oh, I haven't been on my page yet to see the 19K. I just like to look at it. You know, when you flip a new number, it takes a lot longer. Flip those new numbers. Because you have to go through 1,000 instead of like, when you first start your YouTube channel, you will, it goes by every, like your numbers will go up by every 10. Like, so every 10 subscribers that you get, it'll be like, 10.1, 10.2 or whatever it is, but when it comes to after you hit 10,000 subscribers, it goes by every 100. So it's like, sometimes it takes a little while, just depending on how if the news is newsing. Oh, but I wanted to tell you guys, so tomorrow or the next night, maybe tonight or another night, one of the nights, it'll probably be tomorrow. So I was thinking like about Brian Kohlberger, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to figure out a live for this, but do you think that if he did do this, that he set up that house, the 1122 King Road house, like it was a mock murder house? So do you remember back in college, he had that mock murder house that they would all use, and they would have to go in and they would have to they would have to solve the murder, solve the crime, who did it, how they did it, all the things. Do you think that he could have set this house up like one of those, putting fake evidence here, fake evidence there, fake evidence everywhere? You think maybe? Thank you, Faith. It's not done yet. It's not even near. We're going to decorate it all together. I just am waiting on everything to come in. So I have bags down here. We're done. Like, we've ordered everything. We're done. We are officially, except for there's nothing there. I don't need nothing on every wall. I feel like my mom. I'm my mom's daughter. I definitely am. But no, we literally, everything's ordered. Everything's coming. Yeah. I'm so excited that you guys are like a part of it. We've went through so many backgrounds together throughout the last 2 years. I need to do a video on just that. I've literally just in this room, I've sat here on the floor, right here. I've sat right here, back here on the floor. I've sat here. I've sat this way in this room. And then we had that other room, that big, when my studio looked really big. It was like huge. Oh, it's going to be super classy. Look at this little macrame thing that I got behind me. I love this thing. This room is so peaceful to come into right now. It's just, yeah, huge upgrades. Yeah. Well, Hollister is the shit. I love me some Hollister DM. Maybe it was just telling you for me. No, I do like Hollister. I like their basics, just their basics. Only, it's hard to explain. It has to be certain basics. Like, you know me, I like to be covered. Like some of their shorts are like this big, and I'm like, I can't be fitting into that. Because you never know. You notice that, Faith? I never thought I'd have a piece of macrame in my house. My whole, so when I first started with boutique, when I worked at a boutique, they had macrame everywhere. And I was like, I don't think I like macrame. I do. I like macrame. I very much do. And this is like hand dipped or whatever. And it's like, or dyed. And looks like little mountains. And then it matches my chair, because my chair is like a deep blue. Once I get the camera over there and everything, like do a pre-recorded, you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see everything a little bit better. So. Oh, and then, yeah, macrame is definitely from the 70s. So Hollister's a clothing store. Well, yeah. It's like, I would say like teens, young adults shop there. Normally people my age don't shop there. Vincent gets his pants from there. I buy all of his jeans from there. He loves their jeans. I mean, he doesn't love them because, he doesn't say that, but I keep buying them from there, and he keeps wearing them. So I don't think he's worn another pair other than Express jeans in like 9 years. Yeah, I think that I think that it's this light. I'm actually about to flick it again. Okay, now it's green. Now it's red. Oh, now it's turning a different color. Okay. I don't know. It's this light. I did something. I did something to it. So yeah, the hanging plants, I was going to do macrame for like on this wall, but I'm going to do, wait, actually, am I doing black? Yeah, I'm doing these. So I have a mirror and it's one of those like little arch mirrors. And it's this like these two little planters and they're black and they have like these little arches. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll show it to you when I get them. And we did get some more stuff in today too. We got books for the table. I wanted to put some books back here. And the plant light, I should have put the plant light in tonight because then that would have brightened up the back for us. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. Your planters are all macrame. I bet they're pretty, Ladybug. That's how like the store was where I worked. When I worked at a store called Curve and Cloth. Oh, I am too, Faith. I'm too much into interior decorating. I mean, the last year of I think a year and a half, or about a year and a half, that's all we've done is remodel. We're officially after 9 years. It took us 9 years, but we've got really good really good stuff, really good like decorations. You know what I mean? Like we're finally there. We're finally like, you know, finally there. It just took a while. But going back, like seeing the pictures, you know, of when we first moved in here, it makes me happy. Those pictures make me so happy because we literally we went from 500 square feet to 1,200. And I saw a tiny house today that was 400 square feet, and me and Vincent and the dogs and the cat could totally live in that. I was like, we could totally do that. Like I could downsize tomorrow if we needed to. Do you know what I mean? Like at the same time, I love having all the stuff that we do have, though. We're extremely lucky. And I'm glad that you guys were all here tonight for the live. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Now that we got all of that read through, we can, you know, we'll talk about that tomorrow on the live. We'll kind of like go over the key things that we've, you know, talked about the last few nights because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And are you doing okay, Mary Beth, before I get off here? Hey, mobile homes could be really cute. Super small for you, though. You want a tiny house, DM? This tiny house I saw today was so cute. It was like sage. I love that color. And that's our bedroom. Like we are totally trending right now because that's like the color in. And so we did sage in our bedroom last year. So we're in this year. But this little tiny house had like sage everything. And it had one of them Dutch doors. Is that what they're called? Like where the one goes up, one goes like, you know, they're just like really cool doors. There is only one you. Mike, that's so sweet. That's so sweet, Mike. Oh, but you'll be remodeling. Hello, I love remodeling. Sage is gorgeous. I love green. I love the color green. I don't know why I don't have a green chair. I got a blue chair. Me and Vincent are still figuring that out. We're still trying to figure out why I picked this blue, but I did, and we're going with it. But I just love the color green. I think green's a very pretty color. I could live in a small place, but I don't. We minimized our spot, like our place. You know what I mean? Like I would go and like just buy like, I don't know, just stuff that just wasn't going to be, that didn't last. It wasn't like it, you know, like everything's neutrals over here. KJ, like I'm a neutral gal. I've been a neutral gal for my whole life. My whole life has like been neutrals, but I do love like white, beige, browns, tans. I love them all. I love them all. And then that's what we're gonna do in here. Like we're gonna do browns and blues, like beiges and blacks, all the colors, little mixture there. I do have some stuff ordered too, so it'll be a couple of days before we do the live, probably for the members. Actually, you know what? Why don't we just do it? We'll just schedule it. We'll schedule one for like tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow or Tuesday after, either tomorrow or Tuesday after. Wait, I keep thinking today's Sunday because Vincent was homesick today. Poor guy. So either tomorrow or Wednesday. Wait, what the hell's today? Okay, Tuesday or Wednesday. Either Tuesday or Wednesday, tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll do the members live because I wanted you guys to like help me like decorate. And you guys, I just want to show you guys what we thought and just, I just thought it'd be a fun like live. I'll figure out this lighting situation. I mean, I have like 3 extra lights now because we bought 2. So I just don't know why I'm so dark tonight. Do a St. Patty's Day gift exchange. My brother's birthday is actually the day after St. Patty's Day. Or the day before. The day before. We downsized here. Like, well, by downsize, I mean, we have more things, but we got rid of like stuff that we didn't need. You know what I mean? Like, and that way. And I don't have like a million things, I don't know, everywhere. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't. And it's a lot. I don't know. It is a lot less to clean. And that's nice, Well, I'm glad that you do, Faith. I'm glad that you're here. It's nice having grown-up decor. Yes, DM. I'm finally getting to be a grown-up. It only took me 40 years. Yeah, more quality things. Yeah. Because before I would go to Dollar Tree or something and I'd tear it up on like some Valentine's Day decorations, let's say, or something. Do you know what I mean? And like, instead of doing that, like because you'll do that every year, and it adds up, I just get like a couple cute pillows from Target and like a blanket that's like neutral to like, the season. I don't get like for Valentine's Day, I don't get a blanket with hearts on it. I'll get like a red blanket or a white blanket or, a pink blanket, something that I could use again. I try to do that anyway. But I love blankets. That's my kryptonite when it like comes to like hoarding things. Blankets. If I see a blanket, I gotta touch it. And if it's soft, I gotta have it. And I saw that thing about the Swedish. Have you ever seen that thing about the Swedish cleaning? So, or like the Swedish, it's like death cleaning or whatever. So basically, people, I guess Swedish women and men, and this is smart. Everyone needs to take this little bit of advice because having both parents that are no longer here, throw away some stuff. Because one of these days you're gonna no longer be here. And all of that stuff, although you're not going to care because you're no longer here, all of that is going to be pawned off onto someone else. And not saying my parents' stuff was pawned off onto me and my brother, because it definitely wasn't. And it wasn't a lot. By the time that my mom, passed away, we wanted every single little piece we could get. But the things that I have of my mom's, like really nothing. Like if my brother can store it and he can keep it and he wants all of it forever and a day, that's fine with me. But I know my mom and I know her, and she would say, throw it away or get rid of it or give it to somebody. Like, build your own life, get your own things, like that. And so I did cry though that it's still in the bathroom. We haven't got rid of that black fireplace yet. We are going to see if we can get a light to fix. If we could fix the light, we're going to keep it. That's what it is. If we can't fix the light, we're not going to keep it. It was my mom's, and it was just, I don't know. Like when it wasn't because it was because it was hers, but I had like a stressful night. And I just remember my mom putting me in front of that like heater one night, and it was freezing outside. And I had walked in the cold snow with my dog, and I was stressed out. And my mom brought me inside and got me some warm stuff, warm clothes. 2 sizes probably too big. And like, put me in front of that fireplace to get me warm. And like, I looked in the bathroom like 2 days ago, and we were talking about getting rid of it. And I just broke down. And I was like, oh my God. And then Vincent was like looking at me like, what got into you? Like, cause he's the one that says keep it. And I'm the one that says get rid of it. And I'm like, I don't know. I was just thinking of, the memory. I said, I have the memory. Memory is fine. But what I was saying, the Swedish death cleaning is like if you can, like, I wish my mom would have, and it's just me, but I wish my mom would have designated a list, maybe, right? Even if she didn't have a will, if she could just designate a little list of things of, what she wanted people to have and what she didn't want people to have. Keep the heater. Faith, I probably will keep the heater. It'll probably be in the shed. I have a robe of hers. I'll never get rid of that. I have like pictures. I have her baby shoes. I have like things like that. You know what I mean? Like little things. I have a little piece of her sitting on my desk over there. It is hard to go through parents' things. And my brother has a lot. My brother's getting ready to build a house. Oh, wait, my brother's house is going to be done this summer. So we can move all that stuff in. Yeah, I'll be there to help you if you're listening in, Anthony. I'll be there to help you move all that stuff right on into your house because it's beautiful stuff. And I know that it's his decor. Like it looks like it's that farmhouse feel. And I'm not really, I don't know what my feel. I don't know what my style is. But it is hard to go through parents' things. Keeping the sentimental stuff. I got to collect Pendleton blankets. Oh my gosh. It's a mess and it's crowded, yeah. Vincent's parents, they've definitely lived in their home for 20, 30 years, 30 years now, 40. You know what I mean? Like people live in their home and they have things. My parents were the same, but when my mom downsized and downsized and downsized, that's when she didn't have as much. So. I need to donate a lot. I have a lot of stuff that I need to donate. Keep it at brothers. That's what I should do. I should just take the fireplace to my brother's. He can't get rid of nothing. He's like he got the sentimental gene. I do too, but he really got it. Like he really got it. So. But thank you guys for being here tonight and talking to me for a little bit afterwards. I can't believe how dark it is. I wish I could fix the lighting in here, but I just can't. That's okay. Maybe it needed to be a little darker tonight in here because my hair is looking a little flat. KJ, that's absolutely right. Yeah, if you can donate it to, or have a yard sale, make back some money. Then take that money and go do something nice for yourself. Go buy yourself something like one piece of like quality furniture or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. My mom used to make some money at her yard sales. That woman could get anybody to buy anything though. But thank you guys for being here. I'll be back on tomorrow. Y'all know what I say at the end of the live. I'll be on tomorrow. I know that there's like a new video out in Sebastian Rogers' case. As far as that goes, no new information's out, but a lot of drama. We're coming up on the 1 year mark. So I think I will save. I don't even want to do it live though on the 1 year. That's so sad. Like I don't want to do that. Maybe we will do one tomorrow. Just to do the new developments. Because like I consider like the 20th, I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe the 25th or 26th wouldn't be good. We'll think about it. I want them to have I want Katie, Chris, and Seth to all have a little bit of peace on the 1 year mark, at least a little bit of peace because these creators aren't giving them too much. But thank you guys so much for being here. And I do have some stuff to say about the panel that talked about Katie last night and her looks. I have a lot to say about that. So we will be going over that as well. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys all tomorrow night. Have a good evening. Have a good work day tomorrow if you got to work. If not, I'll see you tomorrow on the live. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop.